Welcome inside the vault on a Thursday. It is February 6th. I am live once again in New Orleans, Louisiana. Day 3 for me here on Radio Row as we gear up for Super Bowl 59 between, of course, the Chiefs and the Eagles. We're glad you're here. Today's live stream is brought to you by our friends at Manta Sleep. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined alongside my partner, co-host and friend, Sarah Ellison. And partner, as you know, it is off and running here. Kyle Van Noy is just over my left shoulder hosting his podcast, the McCoy and Van Noy Show for Yahoo Sports. Joe Burrow walked by about 3 seconds ago, right before we came on. He's got an entourage around him, as you'd imagine. The GOAT, Ed Reed, is here trying to track him down. Easier said than done, right? They travel in these posse pockets where it's nearly impossible to infiltrate them. We've done our best, had a great chance to sit down with former Ravens tight end Dennis Pitta yesterday. That interview is up on my personal channel, but we will get to some clips coming up in just a bit, as well as NFL insider and friend of the show, Josina Anderson, but of course not before we talk about Tom Brady's comments on Lamar Jackson. Of course, he's going to be gearing up for his first Super Bowl call, being that it's a Fox televised broadcast coming up this weekend. And of course, NFL Honors is tonight, which means MV3 could very well be on deck once and for all. So great to see you. We got a lot coming up over the next hour or so.
Listen, you are dressed for GOAT status. You better track down his guy, throw a few elbows around and be like, listen, I'm dressed for the GOAT, Ed Reed. That man needs to get inside the vault. It has to happen. We require it in their lives, Bobby. It's all in your hands. It's in your hands. No pressure, of course. But let's talk about this fit here for a second, because you are looking pretty, Miami Vice is the vibes I'm getting. You got the Miami Vice vibes in New Orleans because somebody may be going to a pretty impressive event tonight.
It's 80 degrees, first and foremost. There are palm trees the second I walk out of my French Quarter-based hotel, which has been an awesome experience. And then on top of that, I almost don't want to speak this into it like out loud because we all know how invites go during Super Bowl week. But you know me, I love teasing things that never end up happening. I thought it
was a done deal.
It is, but we both know that things can go sideways in a hot second. But I have been invited to Cam Newton's Super Bowl party tonight, not by Cam, but by somebody we know through the business, through our podcast distributor, by the way. And I believe I have a +1 with me. And that +1 just so happens to be a lady that I went out to dinner with last night. But we're going to get to that, I'm sure, on the back end. Maybe Super Chats will discuss it. Maybe they won't. Maybe I'll just ultimately give you guys the biggest cliffhanger ever and not address it again to try and make sure that I don't friggin' jinx it, just like I have with every other thing in my life when it comes to the love life. But what do you
listen? Based off what you've been through the last 2 weeks, you deserve this. You deserve a +1 amazing date at Cam Newton's Super Bowl party. It's in the books. And you know what else? You know what else we also deserve, Bobby? We deserve MV3 tonight with the NFL Honors going down. And based off of a conversation we had with Mike Florio yesterday, an AP voter, and based off of some comments that Tom Brady, who's also an MVP voter, some comments that he gave while giving out his season awards, I don't know. I mean, we were already feeling pretty good about Lamar's chances, but Tom Brady, he gives out his yearly end of season awards. I guess this is a new thing. Is this new? Maybe it's his second time. Some of the awards are for the first time. And he gave Lamar Jackson his Offensive Player of the Year award. He did not give out an MVP. We'll talk a little bit more about his other awards. But here's what he had to say about number 8 himself in Baltimore.
Offensive Player of the Year who settled debates of his own, Lamar Jackson. 41 touchdown passes and only 4 interceptions. Time to give Lamar the respect he deserves as a passer, because that Baltimore QB had a cheat code, and it was Lamar and Derrick Henry sharing that backfield. Congrats to Lamar on a season that could very well end up with his 3rd career MVP award.
Ooh, I like the end of that especially. But, yeah, I mean, how do you not give Lamar these top awards after the season. Tom Brady said it, 41 passes to only 4 interceptions. Bobby, I was looking up some of the previous MV3s because I spent way too much time on a graphic that I will put out on Twitter tonight. If he wins it, if he doesn't, I'm going to be ticked that I spent many hours on this graphic. But I was looking, like some of the guys that even had an MV3, like Brett Favre, that was a co-MVP. And his numbers were nowhere near as impressive as Lamar. I just don't think that people quite understand not only how he deserves MVP this year, but it stacks up very well to past MVP winners. And I'm not saying it was the best ever, but it's certainly nothing to sneeze at. Then I love this quote from Brady. Time to give Lamar the respect he deserves as a passer. And he emphasized passer because this is a guy who we know is not the most athletic guy in the world, Tom Brady. So he had to make his living on being able to pass the ball well, and he's demanding it. It's time to give Lamar the respect he deserves as a passer. And he talks about the cheat code of Lamar and Derek himself sharing that backfield. And then he ends with a little teaser for tonight. NFL Honors, 8 p.m., right? Is it 8 p.m., Bobby?
I'd have to double check, but typically that's the prime time hour for these events. Yep.
All right. Well, don't take my word for it. Look it up. Google it. And he says, congrats to Lamar in a season that could very well end up with his 3rd career MVP. And that is coming from an MVP voter himself. Bobby, was that the first time you heard that?
It was. And obviously the emphasis on passer is well received because we know the numbers echoed that for sure. You know, the first quarterback in NFL history to record 4,000 plus passing yards and 900 plus rushing yards on the ground in a single season. And of course, while doing so, oh, by the way, in his 7th season, as we all know, he became the all-time leader in quarterback rushing yards, surpassing Michael Vick's previous record. And Lamar's also responsible for 25% of all games where a quarterback had a perfect passer rating since he got to the league. So that's from the 33rd team, which is just, yeah, I mean, it's a monumental type of feat. So for Tom to understandably make sure that he emboldens or emphasizes the passer side of Lamar's game is absolutely the correct analysis. And that's coming from the greatest of all time, obviously, at his position.
I still can't get over the stat because it's the first time I heard it. Like there are, in league history, there are only 16 perfect passer ratings in NFL history. And Lamar has 4 of them. He has 1/4 of them. When we're talking about all the previous MVPs and all the previous GOATs, and this man was supposed to be a guy who can't pass, and a passer rating, only the formula is only what is like interceptions, touchdowns, completion percentage, yards. Like it has nothing to do with his legs. Like most people would think that you'd have to look at QBR, which takes into account what Lamar could do with his legs. That if he had these amazing QBRs, it's like, well, yeah, it's Lamar. He uses his leg. No, this is only his passing, and he has 4 of 16 perfect passer rating games. Oh, no, sorry. I said in the history, but since he got in the league, that's my bad. Still, since 2018. It's insane that he's got 1/4 of them when Patrick Mahomes is out here playing, when Joe Burrow is out here playing, when Josh Allen is out here playing. It's absolutely insane.
I just looked it up for you quickly, by the way, just in case folks were wondering. It's 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central tonight. So,
all right.
I'm sorry, wait a second. 8 o'clock Central makes it 9 o'clock Eastern. So that's a late start time for NFL Honors. And I don't believe, if memory serves, MVP is right out of the gate. Like
no,
that's
like
the one that packs a punch,
right?
Yeah, that packs a punch. So they're going to want to hold on to that. So just mark your calendars accordingly tonight for a late Thursday night when that comes down.
I'm in trouble, Bobby, because I was up late last night. I'm going to be up late tonight for this. And then Friday night, I'm going to a Lee Brice concert. I don't listen to much. I don't even listen much to country. I'm only learning about him now because I actually don't listen to music very much at all. I'm always on podcasts. So I got to do that Friday night. And then I got to be up Saturday to go coach some young kids basketball games. So this is going to be quite the stretch, but I think I'm built for it. Anyway.
Well, it's been a multi-week stretch for you for reasons that I've already pontificated on. You have been carrying us, so we appreciate you. And by the way, can't wait to talk offline about Lee Bryce. All right, he is absolutely on my Spotify playlist. I'm fired up for you on Friday night now.
Oh, okay.
Let's go.
Well, send me the best song so I can get acclimated. Okay.
All right, stay tuned.
Anywho, Tom Brady also referenced the cheat code that is Lamar and Derek together. And as we know, we got to give props to Derek. He's up for Offensive Player of the Year. He's one of the finalists. He himself already said that he doesn't think he's going to win it, but he will be back. That doesn't mean that we can't talk about how absolutely phenomenal he was this year. In his first year as a Raven, he set the single season touchdowns in Ravens history. He had 16 rushing, I think 18 total. He was the first player in NFL history to record 3 career seasons with at least 1,500 rush yards and 16 rush touchdowns. Most rushing most rushing TDs in a season in Ravens history. I mean, he was phenomenal. And talking about this greatness, what we could do, Bobby, we're not going to do it today because NFL Honors is a time to celebrate. Like, I get it. You can sit here and say, man, the Ravens let this slip through their fingers. I understand that sentiment. But today's going to be a day to celebrate what could be coming down the pike for Lamar Jackson and the fact that these two are going to be back together again, at least for one more year and maybe longer if they are able to extend Derrick Henry.
And speaking of running backs, you pulled in some sound from Tom on Saquon, who, of course, is expected to be the Offensive Player of the Year frontrunner tonight at the award. Obviously, he won't be at the awards. He's got more pressing things going on right now. But what did Tom have to say about Saquon?
Yeah, so I wanted to bring Saquon up. Did I lose the graphic? I guess I didn't bring it in here. Oh, here it is. I wanted to bring in Saquon because Tom Brady did not give out an MVP. His thing is the LFG Player of the Year. So I just wanted to play this because I was wondering if there are any clues that because he gave Saquon the LFG player, could he have voted for Saquon at MVP? I don't get that impression. You tell me once you listen to this.
A lot of amazing performances this year, but this year's LFG Player of the Year award goes to, Giants fans, cover your ears, Saquon Barkley. Congratulations, Saquon. You were amazing. Saquon rushed for over 2,000 yards in his first season with the Eagles. I still wish he got the chance to break the rushing record, but we're on to bigger and better things now. The ultimate goal, winning the Super Bowl. I'm fired up to see Saquon play on the biggest stage versus the Chiefs.
Are we not all disappointed he didn't get a chance to break that rushing record? He would have had an extra game to do it, but they pulled him out the game before on the penultimate game where he could have maybe rushed more, and then he would have needed less than 100, and then you could have given him a half.
Yeah.
I would have liked it. But I'm also not the one making the decision, and I have to live with it if he were to get injured. I'm not living with that reality, but I would have liked to have seen it.
I was going to say, I think Nick Sirianni refused to potentially be on that side of history, but that also meant Saquon was going to come up short of history. And Eric Dickerson's record is obviously preserved for at least another year. Based on Saquon's comments, I remember seeing those floating around the timeline. He wanted it. You know that for sure.
Yeah, and so just to wrap up his awards, just so you can see him, there's a few Eagles in here. There's a reason why they're in the Super Bowl. His Defensive Player of the Year was Eagles Zach Bond. And then his Defensive Rookie of the Year, Kenyon Mitchell. So that's 3 Eagles right now. His Offensive Rookie of the Year, slam dunk, Jaden Daniels. I don't see how you could ever disagree with that. Coach of the Year, wouldn't disagree with this one, Andy Reid. And then Tom Brady's 6th round pick of the year, because he was a 6th rounder. So that's a fun award. He gave it to DeMar Hamlin, who has come back from a near-death experience and is playing well.
Well, he played well we had a first-hand experience on that one.
Yes, we did.
He played pretty darn well in the divisional round game against Baltimore Ravens, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Bobby, here's my question to you. If you were to give a coach of the year award for the Ravens, I'm talking about support staff. So you can give it to John too, but pick one Raven. I have a feeling I know who you're going to pick, but who would you pick as the coach of the year among the Ravens coaches?
Coach of the year. Thanks, Cole. Cole just brought over, Jake's producer just brought over 3 boxes of those bounty wings.
Oh, those bounty wings are so good.
That we were snacking on last year. And the setup is yet again here. And I'm pretty sure Kyle Hamilton and Kyle Van Noy are going to be doing the same like bounty brother promotion that they were doing last year, Kyle promotion.
Yeah.
But anyway, here comes Micah Parsons, literally 3 feet to my left.
Oh, ask him if he wants to come to the Ravens with Lamar Jackson.
He's literally right here. You're going to catch him in the back of the camera in just a second.
Does he have a big posse back
there?
there?
Oh, yeah, he's got an entourage around him.
Oh, yeah.
And I see Rod Woodson off to my right as well. Chad Steele's back, walking around with him.
Man, we need you to get we need you to have a producer running to get these guys down while you're chatting with me.
Right? It's like one of these years, this is all going to be a robust system that we come up with.
Yeah.
Like the fact that Jake Asman, our buddy that makes this possible, and the Jets content creator that I've been friends with for a while, this is his 6th, and to watch him have it down to a science is something that I definitely like. It's definitely an ambitious future look at how I know we're going to have it at some point. It's just not there yet. So anyway, that's all to say. My coach, support
Tila says she
staff-wise,
could have done it. Tila's like, she could be out there. Yeah, Tila, go get Rod Woodson for us. Go get Ed Reed. Like, Tila wouldn't take no for an answer, I got a feeling.
I love it. Tila would definitely fight for us out here, right? Like, she'd just be throwing elbows if she needs to. And guess what? Elbow throwing is needed sometimes on Radio Row. Anyway, it's a long way of saying I'll go Chuck Smith. What about you?
I would go Monken.
You're going to go Monken. I just knew that was sort of the obvious one in my mind, but I was thinking of one of maybe off the beaten path, and just because they've been top 1 and then top 2 this year in overall sacks.
Yeah, I knew you were going to go
without somebody that was like an overwhelming presence, like game wrecker. I just think that speaks to the diversification that he's brought in, and I'll go Chuck Smith.
Yeah, I figured you were going to go there. I thought for sure. That's why I even asked you, is because I was teeing you up. Okay.
But you know who deserves an honorable mention, Sarah?
Who?
George Warhop, the interim offensive line coach.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He jumps in last minute for Coach D, and he's able to get Daniel Fa'alele to the point where he's getting Pro Bowl votes and all-pro vote, like a vote, but he got him there.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yep.
You're right about that. Whereas most of the secondary coaches have been fired, or let go, or mutually parted ways. Like that was a good shout out. I'm glad you mentioned him. Well,
chat, where are you at? Hit us with your candidates. We'd love to see them.
They've said what we basically said.
Staff?
Yeah, I've seen him say that.
Support staff coach of the year. Let us know in the chat. Where to next, partner?
Well, so we don't know for sure that Tom Brady voted for Lamar Jackson MVP, even though he said there's a good chance he comes away with MV3 tonight. What we do know is Mike Florio, who is also an MVP voter. He was on our show last night, and you got him to reveal who he voted for, even though they're not supposed to, but whatever, we were a day out.
Because they're not paying me for this, so I'll tell you.
So I had to put your question in here because I want to see if you catch something in your question. And the way you presented it to him is pretty good. So on the front end, you ask him who he voted for, and then I ask him for his reasoning behind it. So here we go.
Or whoever it is that's talking to you is asking you to be tight-lipped on where your vote went. We're closing in on 24 hours. Are you able to share where your MV3 vote went? We're just calling it MV3 at this point. Like, it's just so. Here comes Dan Orlovsky off to my left. He's got an entourage around him. We had him on last year. That'd be somebody great to get. But it's so
you just like put it out. Like you didn't even notice it because we've been saying MV3 for basically the whole season. And so it was like you weren't even asking, like, could it be Josh Allen's first MVP or Saquon Barkley's first MVP? You're like, did you vote MV3? Like, just let us know.
From this point forward, we're coining it that. So be it.
Yeah. All right. So carrying on here. Sorry about that. I had to pause it.
Nope. Good.
Well,
Are you still holding tight for tomorrow?
The bosses aren't the issue. The Associated Press has all sorts of rules that I either pay attention to or don't pay attention to. And my position is, if you want to take my vote, go ahead. Because you know what? It's a lot of extra work, and I haven't gotten a check for that yet. So free work is something that I rarely do, including this.
Fair enough.
Unless you want to pay me. But
he's never said no to me, by the way.
But
so thank you, Mike.
I did vote for Lamar.
Boom. Mike, can you dive in a little bit deeper now that you've revealed that you voted for Lamar? What was your rationale? Obviously, our listeners agree with you. Bobby and I agree with you. What was your rationale of picking him over Josh Allen or, say, Saquon Barkley?
Well, here's how I do things. Because I've noticed a lot of people, Sarah, who will have a convoluted formula. Find a statistic. Here's this statistic, and this statistic, and this statistic. And then I came up with my own statistic, and they all point inevitably to the person I choose. I think when you follow the NFL all the time, every day of the year, in season, out of season, you know what you see, you can process it, and it makes for a much more accurate gut. You know it when you see it. You know, I hit almost 70% of the games this year straight up by sitting down at my computer, and the first thought that comes to me, that's what I go with. And it's a product of doing this every single day, watching games every single week, watching re-airs of games all the time, thinking about football, writing about football, eating, breathing, crapping football. You develop a good sense of what it should be. And I mean, Lamar Jackson just has the look, and the numbers are better than they were last year. And I know other guys were better than Lamar last year, but more than 40 touchdown passes, fewer than 5 interceptions, first guy to ever do it. Oh, and he's got Derrick Henry. And the fact that he did all that with Derrick Henry still getting as many rushing yards as he did makes it more impressive, not less impressive. You got a guy there who is loading up the stats with his own numbers, and you still had a better year than you had last year. It makes it more impressive.
Yeah.
That is by far the truth. Like that last part that he put out there. I like how he gave himself a little love. He's like, I got most of these games right. He had like a percentage there. But he's absolutely right. Where people were using Derrick Henry against Lamar rather than being like, oh, wait, Lamar's having a career season through the air combined with, 900 plus rushing yards. And he's doing it with another running back who has nearly as many yards as Saquon Barkley. And if you go up to the Eagles, there were so many games where Jalen Hurts is like barely throwing the ball at all, right? And that's what everybody's debating this week. And I don't want to take anything away from Jalen. Like they're putting together a game plan that is a winning formula for them that's gotten them this far. And so they don't have to rely on his arm. They don't have to with Saquon Barkley in there. And yet they didn't have to with Lamar, and yet they were so balanced this year, Bobby. They were truly a balanced team between passing and rushing. And the Ravens have always been number one in rushing since Lamar Jackson became the starter. So to see people use Derrick Henry against him rather than saying, wait, they're doing the same thing in Philadelphia and Jalen Hurts isn't doing what Lamar's doing. So Lamar's doing even better. Like Mike was absolutely right. You should be saying that makes Lamar even better, not worse.
I thought it was a refreshingly old school take as an MVP voter to essentially lean on the feel that he was alluding to, like the feel of the award, the feel of the research and the analysis and the watching of the games that goes into ultimately deciding where your vote will be cast, and so I think that I don't know if it's clearly not a universal approach that's taken by MVP voters this day and age. Right. Aaron Schatz certainly isn't going to do that.
Aaron Schatz is exactly who I thought of when he was talking about some people take a stat. Yep.
Me too. And you know what? Like that's his MO. Aaron is an analytical guy. He's the creator of DVOA, and he stood 10 toes down for why he didn't vote for Lamar a year ago. And while you don't have to agree with it, I think we can all respect his way of thinking. It's an analytical approach, and he backs it up. He backs it up with numbers. He backs it up with theory. He backs it up with belief. I found it refreshing to hear Mike's take, and while it's not universal, I don't think he's alone among the 50 voters that will ultimately and did ultimately several weeks ago decide this award, which will be announced tonight.
So anybody that wants to, that whole interview, just that interview, it's about 30 minutes long. We posted separately. I thought the whole interview was really, really good. And what I just played is probably my second favorite part of the interview. All of it's good, but I just have to revisit my absolute favorite part. And we were talking about his nickname, Mike Flores. I don't know if you can see that there's a live chat all the time, and the elephant in the room was, when Lamar, and you've owned it pretty well, when Lamar called you Mike Flores and all that kind of stuff. Like,
I don't remember that.
Hey, Sarah, just to be clear, I'm hiding the live chat. Okay. You cannot see the live chat
I don't
right
care.
Now.
Bring it, people. Come on, you can do better than that.
Mine doesn't hide. I can give you credit there. You do not hide. Obviously,
hey,
Ravens
as
fans
Charles Barkley said, as long as the check shows up on the 15th and the 30th, I don't care.
Yeah, you made sure that was going to be addressed at some point in the interview, and it was not on my radar at all to do so. So well done.
Really?
I just there was just so much happening. I'm glad you kind of like made sure that was addressed, and it made for hopefully some entertaining sound there, if nothing else.
Yeah, no, I thought he was a really good sport. And when he said he doesn't care, like there's a certain and I'm sure he gets it.
Care.
Yeah, I don't care. It is insane how like people on social media can take something you've said or written and completely twist it into something that you're like, don't even recognize it anymore. And I'll get like, I can't even tell you, like I got a big long YouTube comment, I think earlier this week, about how I should be ashamed of myself and this and that. And it's just like, I don't even know what you're talking about, because I don't like, what are you talking about? And so to a certain degree, like somebody like Mike Florio, to get to where he is, NBC Sports is on there before Sunday night football games, giving news and all that kind of stuff. Like there's a point that you have to say, I don't care. And yet for me, I try to still balance that, because you do have to say, I don't care, but somehow still find a way to hear feedback that's genuine and legitimate. And that's tough to do. Some of these guys just don't even like open up for feedback anymore, or some people get demolished by the comments and can't do it anymore and have to leave the business. And so there is something to that where you have to say, I don't care, because then you're getting at least an authentic opinion, an opinion I disagree with a lot and that we debate, as I told him later in. But go check out the interview. I know a lot of our fans do not like him. I think you might be pleasantly surprised about how well that interview went down. Go check it out if you haven't already.
I would totally agree with that. You can find it in the archive section, the best of playlist for those of you who are on YouTube, and those of you who haven't come over to YouTube yet and just hang out in the Twitter space. We cannot emphasize enough, cannot stress enough that it's a much more interactive experience over on the YouTube side of things. So come on over, like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when we're dropping our daily live content. And Teal, just so we're aware, over 1,700 and counting right now in terms of concurrence. And before we get to some clips from my one-on-one with Josina Anderson and former Ravens tight end Dennis Pitta, today's episode, as promised and as you heard at the top, is brought to you by our friends at Manta Sleep. And it is the official sleep mask partner of us here inside the vault. And I got to tell you, you guys must love Manta, because they seem to love us. They just re-upped with us for yet another 3-month run. And so you guys are enjoying Manta, and that means that we're going to continue enjoying our partnership with Manta. So we wanted to say thank you. You see, the Manta Sleep Mask Pro is one of the many masks that they have available to you at Manta Sleep Mask, at mantasleep.com. We have all that information in the show notes and also as a pinned comment right now in the live chat if you want to peruse through the site. But these sleep masks give you true 100% blackout for a deeper sleep. You've got C-shaped eye cups for unbeatable side sleep comfort. If you click on the link that's included in the show notes, it brings you directly to the site, and you'll see, again, there's so much more to choose from. Here's Brian Baldinger walking by. Hey, Brian. How are you, man? Great to see you. Brian Baldinger. I don't know if we've had him on the show before, but Baldy is literally always his Baldy breakdowns are really popular and something that we share all the time. So mid live read them. Got to give Baldy some love. But anyway, when you go over to the site, you'll see.
Maybe Baldy needs a sleep mask. Who knows?
Well, you know what's really funny too? Like his hand is literally probably 4 times the size of mine.
Yeah.
And I'm proud to say I did not get fished. I came in with a vengeance. I mean, that was a heck of a handshake. And he looked me right in the eye. I think he actually thought that he was coming to sit down with me, but he's at the table behind me. So that's kind of hilarious. Anyway.
Well, and aren't some of his fingers like still kind of like healing from being broken? Like I feel like when I saw him last year, like most football players, like their hands are mangled because they've broken so many fingers.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, that dude is a big human being. Would love to track him down at some point this week. But to finish things off here, the Manta Sleep Mask Pro is not all that's offered to you at mantasleep.com. You've got the sound mask with the built-in Bluetooth feature. You've got the silk and the sleep masks. And as Sarah and I have been sharing in recent weeks, we were just made aware of this white noise machine, which apparently is like absolute magic to get to sleep. So anyway, there's a bunch of different options here. You got the Manta white noise machine. You got the white noise machine with the dual speaker and the booster speaker as well. So not just sleep masks is essentially what we're trying to tell you at mantasleep.com. And if you find something you like, use our discount code at checkout. It's VAULT10, VAULT10. Will get you 10% off your next purchase. And we want to continue to say thank you to Manta Sleep for the ongoing support as we get ready for yet another off season here inside the channel. Speaking of off season, that's when we know we're in Radio Row. And it's an interesting one. When I sit down with these guests, unlike last year, Sarah, it's kind of interesting. I have to keep thinking about how I want to ask certain questions and what should be the most pressing questions, because it was so obvious a year ago, right? It was so obvious. Why did Todd stop running the ball? Why did Zay Flowers have that gaffe at the goal line? What happened in the AFC Championship game? And it was like weeks and weeks and weeks worth of trying to find meaning and answers in that. This year, while there are pressing questions, I don't feel like there's something that's just over the top that everybody's talking about. But regardless, both Josina Anderson and Dennis Pitta shared some great insights with me. Which one do you want to hear first?
Surprised me.
Okay.
Yes.
Why don't we do this? Let's start with Josina, because if there is something to compare to the past 2 postseasons exits, it's been player execution or lack thereof. Josina is a former Division I athlete and obviously has covered the NFL for over 20 years and just a tremendous NFL insider with tremendous relationships. Odell comes to mind, given the relationship that they have.
Yeah.
Something that she spoke about yesterday was pressure management.
Okay.
And while you evaluate talent when you're Eric DeCosta in the scouting department and player personnel, evaluating talent is one thing. And the Ravens have a ton of talent, maybe as talented as anybody in the league, up there with the Philadelphias in terms of roster construction. She goes on to say, so cultivating talent's one thing, but trying to foresee pressure management and how a player will react to big-time moments and with big-time plays is something that's almost impossible. It's impossible to measure. And seeing the way that certain Ravens players have come up small in big moments, particularly Mark Andrews, given his track record of reliability outside the postseason and how much of a storied player he's become in such a short amount of time, is something that's, I think, shocked all of us. Listen to what Josina has to say about this. It's a wide-ranging conversation, and she goes in a bunch of different directions. But I want to get your thought on the idea of pressure management when it comes to team building if you're Eric DeCosta and company. Here's Josina from yesterday.
Is even, I feel like, is the stuff that doesn't show up on the stat sheets. And as someone who's a former athlete, I feel like I can tell when somebody have it or don't.
I have to just pause this and talk about her fit. Josina is always on point. Just like you today, Bobby, in your Miami Vice suit here. She is always on point, looking like $1 million. I'll rewind it and start it again. I love Josina, in case you didn't already know.
And
I
let
wish
me
I
just,
was there with you to talk to her face to face.
and as I told you, she made sure to give you major love, and she, it's just so generous, loves us, loves you, all
Oh, I
that.
love that. Love that. We'll have to reach out. And by the way, people are saying they haven't seen this interview yet. We have not posted it yet. That'll go up later today, correct?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Here
So,
we go.
but just to add on top of that though,
Sorry.
Josina,
Is even
Sorry.
I feel like
no, it's okay. Josina, I just wanted to add on to your
Okay.
comment on her wardrobe. Josina is a literal star. She cannot walk down this Radio Row experience without getting plucked.
I'm sure.
Like she and she gives time to everyone.
Yeah.
The fact that this was at the end of the day and she gave me 25 minutes when at the beginning of it, she's like, hey, can we do like 10 to 15? I was like, sure. And then midway through, I was like, hey, we're going long. She goes, I don't care. Like she just, I just want to make sure everybody knows that, this experience is very overstimulating for people like Josina because they just get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And somebody like her doesn't have security around, obviously. And she's just so incredibly generous with her time. Hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Start again.
talent evaluation is even, I feel like, is the stuff that doesn't show up on the stat sheets. And as someone who's a former athlete, I feel like I can tell when somebody have it or don't. So this is why sometimes I've been in front on stories relative to Zach Wilson, Carson Wentz, and things like that. And when, people have maybe believed that this person was this, and I could tell that they were not. And so I feel like beyond just getting talent at a certain position, not only do you have to have dogs, not only do you have to manage the puzzle so that the chemistry of your locker room comes together. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles and Howie Roseman is also very good at this too. And ADC is good in his own right. But there are just other things, micro things that you have to be cognizant of when you're putting a team together. And it goes beyond just evaluating the physicality on the tape. Can this mofo be counted on when I freaking need him? You see what I'm saying? Can this is, I mean, and I will prove to you how important it is, because you know who has that? Jaden Daniels has that. And I noticed I don't watch college football, but people know that I have covered the NFL for 20 years. I don't watch it, not because I don't have the time. Sunday is enough. I need Saturday to separate. Okay. And so I've said for many years, since I started covering the combine in 2009, that I will learn about you when you come to the combine. And then after you make the 90-man roster and then the 53 or whatever. And so when I talked to Jane Daniels, that was the first time. I mean, I've heard about his name, but I didn't really watch him. And then I like to look at your YouTube. And I feel like, because I play a game with myself, like, can I, if I were the GM, could I pick the talent? And I have picked a few accurate ones in my day, just from as being a former and just looking. And when I was interviewing with him at the combine, and I tweeted this. I don't know if you saw that tweet, but my producer said, she said, you said it. And I said, after the interview, I felt it. And I think I can say it now. I said it to Dan Quinn. People ask me for a copy of the interviews sometimes that I do, so that because they want to see how they answer the questions. And you could see, I mean, if you go back and look at that interview, you could see it. And so it is important, because it's the difference between two people who have a strong arm, but Jaden has a different mind. And so you got to be able to pick up on that.
Yeah. Dude's unflappable.
Unflappable. I mean,
run.
we're literally could be, I'm no, sorry, it's not pertaining to, but we literally potentially could be looking maybe at the next Jordan of our era in the football. He has that ability mentally. Now, obviously, a lot of things have to fall into place, but just, like Lamar and things like that. But that's what I'm trying to say. So it's not so much that I'm focusing on the wide receivers as the Ravens want to get to the next level. And part of getting to the next level is managing the pressure of the situation. It is, because a lot of times it has come down to a catch that didn't happen in, what was it, the AFC Championship last year?
Well, Zay at the goal line. Yeah.
And
Football security.
And then what happened?
Mark at the goal line this year.
Oh,
yeah.
But it literally is the difference.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, you know what I'm saying? So, and sometimes it's not that you have to get another player that has it. Sometimes it's, you do have that person and they need more time to aggregate it, so to speak. You know what I mean? Manifest. Yeah. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. So I don't know. That's what's in my spirit to say, because I've seen that happen 2 years in a row. And I'm like, so I would, that's what I would be looking on.
I appreciate the honesty.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
Woo! First of all, you heard me cackling and laughing when she's like, "These mofos better catch the ball."
Right? Love her personality.
Well, yes, and I also have just learned that the next time I'm at Radio Row, I got to up my game, because you talking about, people always grabbing her, and she can speak to this because she's spoken to so many people across the NFL, and they can speak to her differently than they might speak to Ian Rappaport, right? It's just two different vibes. And so this like pressure evaluation, or like almost this psychological evaluation, I'm sure, she dives into that, because as you've noted with everybody like wanting to talk to her, she gives everybody time, because there's like this caring aspect to her, which is very warm. But yeah, I already know that the Ravens have this kind of stuff in their calculus. I don't know how they measure it exactly, but Bobby, in that interview that Eric DaCosta did with Todd McShay, he started talking about his draft process. We didn't pull those quotes. I figured we could do it later when we're closer to the draft, but he talked about like their proprietary algorithm that they kind of have built from scratch since 2015. And they even put things like Madden ratings in there, which is hilarious to me. But I since I started working for the Ravens, I remember them talking about having like a talent evaluation, which she spoke to. There's a character evaluation, which is different from pressure. But this is why when coaches go into, let's say, meetings at the combine with players and they only have 15 minutes, they try to make you squirm. They can see on tape what you've done in like a 2-minute offense or in a 2-minute defense. Like they obviously will use that part of it. And when the pressure's on, how do you respond? They do interviews with coaches. They do interviews with teammates. They do all those type of things to get a feel for these guys. And I've told this story before. I know they try to make people wiggle, because after my first intern year with the Ravens, the scouts asked me to come and apply for a job in the scouting department. And at the time, I was like, wait, because they wanted me to be an assistant. I was like, I just don't want to be like making copies and stuff. So at first I was like, I'm not really interested. But then I was like, what am I doing? I got to keep my foot in the door. And so I was like, yeah, I do want to apply for this. And so I went in, I interviewed with Eric DaCosta, but then I interviewed with George Kokinis. And boy, did he make me wiggle. Like I sat down, I'm like, hey, George, how are you? He's like, have a seat. He's like, we heard you didn't want this job, so why are you in here right now? And I was like, like, you know what I mean? Like they try to put you in pressure situations. So I already know that's part of the calculus, but to actually determine that when you're in the AFC Championship game and is Mark Andrews going to hold on to the ball? Like, I don't know how that translates. I know that they have a team. It was called the team psychologist when I was there. She was always meeting with players all the time. They have, I think they call him a team clinician now, to help with mental health and all that kind of stuff. And so I know that the NFL and the Ravens specifically put time into that, but it's like you can only manufacture so much pressure, right? That doesn't quite compare to, say, the playoffs. And so I think that she's onto something, but how to implement that, I think, is easier said than done.
No question. I've been reflecting on it since our conversation yesterday. And it's like, I walked away. I'm like, is she suggesting that they lack a certain level of killer instinct offensively? I was like, I don't know about that. It's more about, like she said, it's pressure management. And
yeah.
And these players that, it's a perfect segue now to talk about, the player that unfortunately will have to think about the way that he handles pressure management the entire offseason, and that's Mark Andrews. It continues to be this strange reality where one of the most clutch players in regular season franchise history has been anything but in the month of January. And so that brings us to Dennis Pitta, former Super Bowl winning Ravens tight end, kind enough to spend some time with me yesterday. BYU blood. He gave you his best, as did Todd Heap.
Love it.
Todd and I are efforting to try and link up with one another today. We've been texting back and forth. I don't know what his schedule is this afternoon, but I hope to catch up with him. And being that Dennis, of course, and Todd are both former tight ends, it was just too good of an opportunity to not get their perspective in terms of whether they've talked to Mark since the divisional round loss, and just what they thought of the moment that, of course, really defined the start of the Ravens offseason. So what I can tell you is Dennis has not spoken with Mark. They have a great relationship, but he was essentially like, what can I say right now to help out Mark Andrews? So I got the kind of sense that he's giving him some space, and you kind of respect that from an athlete friendship standpoint. But here he is overall talking about Mark Andrews and where you go from here.
That this won't be how we remember Mark Andrews, which there's been players, what was it, Jackie Smith? And I might be butchering that name, for the Cowboys. He's remembered for a big drop in the postseason for Dallas. And this was decades ago. And he was a great player. But the one thing they remember about him was that play. And I don't think that's how this story will play out for Mark, and I hope it doesn't. And I think based on what Mark did this year, like, he's got a lot of good football left in him. And I know he's going to bounce back from this and have a productive career beyond this, as he has had before this. But man, you just feel so terrible for guys in those moments, because
it's easy for you to put yourself in his shoes. I'm sure.
I mean, you can. I think about, playing in the Super Bowl, and let's say I dropped the touchdown pass that I ended up catching and all that kind of stuff. And, we've all dropped passes, and that's the thing about it. We've all dropped passes. We all know what that's like. You're never trying to drop a pass.
Yeah.
And you're never necessarily conscious of the fact that, oh man, this is a big moment, I hope I don't drop it. You're just playing football. You're doing what you've always done and what you're trained to do, but sometimes you drop it. And unfortunately for Mark, it was in a big moment for him. But man, Mark's going to bounce back. He's a warrior. He's a mentally strong dude. He's proved it throughout his life and his career. And, but you feel bad for those guys in that moment.
Just a snippet there from former Ravens tight end Dennis Pitta. That interview is full. In full, I should say, is over on the Bobby Baltimore channel in the archive section, the best of playlist. First and foremost, I'll say this comfortably as a straight man, one of the most handsome dudes that I've ever come across. I mean, are you kidding me? Dennis Pitta is a Greek god. All right. He's tan. He's tall. His hairline is about as clean as it could possibly get. Well-spoken, family dude. Just, by the way, he's got a 2-year-old at home.
Kids. Yeah.
Dennis has a 2-year-old at home. I'm like, no wonder why you don't answer my texts anymore. I was giving him crap when we finished up the interview, but we used to work together.
Did you mention to him that you think he looks like a Greek god?
I let that one go. If he's watching now, it's awkward. But listen, this dude is a walking Abercrombie model. All right. You see him walking on Radio Row, and everybody, regardless of gender, they're just looking at him like taking him in. So anyway, your thoughts now that
That's
I've completely
funny because I commented. I don't comment on men's appearance because I have eyes for one man, and that is my husband. But I obviously commented on Josina, and I thought she looked good. But they're like,
I just take it to like this next level.
Yeah, you went from like, hey, yeah,
you're gonna get me.
Yeah, you're gonna have a coughing fit now. You call him a Greek god and Abercrombie.
Oh man!
And you wanted a detail about his hairline and his.
I'm telling you, he's just a good-looking dude.
Okay, so I do like Dennis. I heard he got his degree from BYU, which is my old stopping grounds. But on his commentary about Mark Andrews, so I think he's playing the role as he should, as like a support. a mentor, and an encourager. And I think that Mark Andrews needs that in his life. He's got his own standard that he fell short of. So he's going to beat himself up. Social media is going to beat him up. You've got me on social media saying that he blew it. I've said that a few times. And so I appreciate the role that Dennis Pitta is taking, right? Which is, as a former tight end, as a former Ravens tight end, he's gutted for him. And he, and he just wants to encourage him and build him back up. And so I appreciate that. That being said, I don't know that I believe everything that he just said. I do believe that Mark Andrews has plenty of good football in front of him. I believe that. I think he's going to be productive for many years to come. I don't know. How old is he now? Is he 27, 28?
Mark's late 20s.
Late 20s. I mean, he may have a good 5+ years left in him, and I think he will be productive. What Pitta said is he won't be remembered for this. The only way that statement will be true is if he comes up clutch in the playoffs in the future. I've already said I don't want to call his name in that scenario again. I would prefer to call Isaiah Likely or Zay Flowers or Derrick Henry or Lamar Jackson. Those are the numbers I would call before I call Mark Andrews with the game on the line. So I hope, the Ravens don't go out of their way to try to get him that redemption. If it happens, I'm happy for him, but it's going to take more than another productive season. Say he comes and has another double-digit touchdown season and puts up a lot of production. Like if he is with the Ravens, there's a lot of trade talk about him. And so it's just that second statement where he says he won't be remembered for this. I hope that's true for him, but I don't know if I were the coach that I would even give him that opportunity in the playoffs again.
Unfortunately, you are, when it comes to the NFL, you are what you accomplish in January. You are what you don't accomplish in January, and then so on in February. And so for Mark to be this incredible community member, this incredibly productive player through 7 seasons, this tremendous locker room presence, a media good guy. Like, you could go on, and somebody who is an advocate for the diabetic community, right? You can go on and on and on of who Mark Andrews is, which is an incredible person. But I'm kind of with you. Right now, if his career were to be finished in Baltimore, unfortunately, I'm not saying this is it doesn't feel right to say this, but you are what happens in January. And unfortunately, I think he would be remembered for what he wasn't in January.
And that's happening to Lamar, right? That happens to Lamar. It happens to everybody. I mean, it's literally the knock on Lamar. And so, but I've seen enough from Lamar where I still believe he can deliver because we saw him deliver. Whereas I've seen too many times where Mark has not delivered in the clutch, and I don't see him improving where I have seen Lamar improve. And so, that's why the hope isn't as high. Although I'd be happy for him if he got that redemption. That's for sure.
Well, speaking of hope, I think there's consistent hope within the fan base, from a certain percentage of the fan base, that a true big body contested catch winning 50-50 guy could be coming to Baltimore at some point, whether it be through free agency or the draft. And there's a percentage of people out there that feel like that type of player would put Lamar over the top, simply due to the diversity, maybe the diversification that would come with Todd Monken's offense, or maybe it's just the curiosity of the unknown, being that type of player, Des Bryant doesn't count, has never walked through the building during the Lamar era, right? There's no Anquan Bolden that's walked through the door throughout the Lamar era. And so where I'm going with this is we have 2 clips. One from Dennis Pitta on this topic, where I posed the question, do you feel like that type of player, that prototypical wide receiver, would put things over the top for Lamar Jackson offensively speaking?
Mm-hmm.
And Dennis, right out of the gate, made it very clear what his opinion was. Listen to this.
I think they have everything that they need to win the Super Bowl. I thought they had it last year. I thought they had it this year. And again, just because they fell short doesn't mean they didn't have the right roster. They didn't have the right people in the building. In my opinion, they did. And they just unfortunately, for whatever reason, didn't make the plays when they needed to make them, shot themselves in the foot and lost some of those games. But I don't think the approach, I don't think their formula that they've had the last few years can't win the Super Bowl. I think it absolutely can. The way that they've dominated teams throughout the regular season and in a lot of these postseason games as well, the formula's right. It's just they got to make the plays and execute when they're there and not hurt themselves. And that's all it boils down to. I mean, with Zay Flowers and what he's able to do, and listen, there was no Zay Flowers in this postseason. And that was what a lot of people forget.
Yeah.
He's a huge element to what they do because not only, his extension of the run game, taking jet sweeps and quick screens and all that kind of stuff, but his ability to take the top of a defense was incredibly underrated.
Just his sheer presence alone being out there to have to account for that.
Totally.
Not having that, trying to substitute it with a Steven Sims or a Tylan Wallace, it's not the same.
It's not the same. And people forget that. And so with a healthy Zay Flowers, with a still emerging Rashad Bateman, he's still coming into his own as a receiver. And he had a great year this year. And can even increase his role next year, moving forward. They have everything they need in the building. They just got to get past the hump, and that's all it is. Would it help to add another receiver? Sure. And I'm sure that they're looking to do that, but I don't think it's necessary for their success. I think they found out if you have Lamar Jackson, that's necessary for your success. Derrick Henry on top of that, also an important factor in that. But man, with Lamar Jackson, you put, some pieces around it. You don't need every piece. You put some pieces around it, you're going to be successful.
I'm actually curious, before I react, I want to know what you think of that.
I know why you want to hear that, because in the past I've been one of those clamoring, and maybe as recently as last draft season. But I think when I hear him talk about the formula, when I see the balance with which Todd Monken crafted this offense this past season, when I think about the investment that they've made in their backfield, when I think about Lamar making his supporting cast in a legacy potential game-tying drive 90 yards with Tylan Wallace and Anthony Miller happen, and when I see their tight end room, and when I see the emergence, here comes Kyle Van Noy and his wife, I'm starting to come around on the fact that if he's going to come over here, I'm going to try and track him down, Sarah, just so you know. But if he walks by, I might try.
Yeah.
But
feel free to take off.
I'm coming around on the idea of the fact that they have what they need, and that formula will be successful at some point. And it's just solely based on the lack of execution that we've seen rear its ugly head 2 years in a row.
Hearing that whole conversation in context this is the feeling I got from what he was saying, which was that it'd be nice to have an X wide receiver, but you have everything you had everything you needed the last 2 years to win it, right? Like, you can't say, oh, the Ravens lost because they didn't have that big bodied X wide receiver. Would that X wide receiver help? Obviously, yes. Somebody that can dominate like that, obviously the answer is yes. So I think what Dennis was basically trying to communicate is that there's no excuse to lay it there. You know what I mean? Which is why he was saying, like, it'd be nice to have it, but what they've put together, and I agree with them, is the last 2 years they've had a Super Bowl caliber roster. And earlier in your conversation, he's like, it always comes down to player execution. Like, he wouldn't lay it at the feet of coaches or anything like that, which maybe he was being too nice to coaches, but I think that's more what he's saying. That being said, while he's not obsessed with it, I honestly think Eric DeCosta is on a mission to get an X wide receiver. Just a small snippet from his interview with Todd McShay yesterday on The Ringer.
Always try to add speed to the field. We feel like Lamar, being the type of player he is, he presents so many challenges for linebackers and the front, getting guys outside. So we drafted Hollywood, we drafted Zay, we drafted Bait. We've allocated a lot of resources. We don't have that. The one piece we probably have missed on is that big X presence. We've never really had that. We've tried to find that guy. That guy doesn't go on trees, right?
Yeah.
They're hard to find those kind of guys, right? That's probably the one thing.
Yeah. So he knows it. And Bobby, I remember when he first became GM, they asked about wide receiver because obviously there were so many years where it's just been like first round draft picks on wide receivers, just like bust after bust after bust. And I remember him being like, we need to take more swings. And then he took swings with Hollywood, Zay, and Bateman all in the first round, plus many in other rounds. So when I heard him say that, it sounds a lot like what he's saying right there. The one thing that we haven't been able to do is get that X wide receiver. Now, it's tough to get that when you're drafting in the high 20s, year in and year out. Maybe the year where he got Kyle Hamilton, maybe you could have, that's like your best chance because it's not like the Ravens are picking that high very frequently. But I think it's like a point of pride for Eric at this point, where it's like, I know what we're missing. You don't even need to say it. And I think he wants to change that history of the Ravens in that position.
Or doing what he does best. Throwing feelers out there and lying through his teeth.
Maybe.
Right?
But I think this one eats at him. I don't think he's lying that he would like to finally hit in the draft on a big bodied X wide receiver. I don't know why you would even have to lie about that.
No.
Yeah.
Everything just seems so calculated with his elite poker face that we know he has.
Yeah.
I know I seem really distracted right now. I really, if we have an opportunity to get Kyle live and he's 5 feet from me right now, catching up with Justin Pugh, I just don't want to interrupt his conversation. So I kind of keep looking to see if the conversation's over. But I might try and snag it right now. Okay.
Okay, go.
I'll be right back.
Oh, should I move on to other topics or should we I wish that the camera was positioned. Do you guys see Kyle over there? Yeah. Zoom out. Thank you, Bobby. Come on, Bobby. This is live on Radio Row, by the way, where he's giving us a thumbs up. What kind of thumbs up? What was that for? Their heads are cut off. He can't see what's happening. Okay, Cameron saying move on while he tries to get him. This is hilarious. Okay, so I'm gonna give. I was maybe not gonna address this today. I was like, because this can be addressed at any time. But now that we're trying to just have time while he's over there, I've been getting a lot of questions, and it's been posed to me here in super chats, and I swung and I missed with my answer big time. But I've been getting a lot of questions about the Ravens potentially going after edge rusher Khalil Mack. And it looks like he's talking to him. Oh, he's giving him high fives. Come on, Kyle. Come on over. Get it done, Bobby. Also, you guys need to start putting your questions in for Kyle Van Noy. We got to get questions in for this guy. Oh, they're saying that he was on facility earlier today. We'll have to check that out. If he doesn't come on here, we're going to have to go check him out over there. Anyway, I've gotten lots of questions about whether they should pursue Khalil Mack because, if we're being honest, is absolutely wonderful as Myles Garrett would be with his trade request. And I would not be opposed to the Ravens putting together some sort of offer, even though I don't think the Browns would trade him to an in-division rival. I do think Khalil Mack would be an opportunity if he indeed hits the free agent market, which doesn't happen until March. So Khalil Mack on ESPN was listed as the 7th best unrestricted free agent about to hit the market. ESPN says this: Mack's game has aged gracefully after 11 pro seasons. He had 6 sacks, not a ton, and 41 pressures this season, and he can beat up the pocket. He can heat up the pocket. With 107.5 career sacks and steady play speed, Mack is still a 3-down force based on the tape. Then this is what Jeremy Fowler has to say about it with what he's hearing. Fowler says the sense is Los Angeles will make efforts to re-sign Mack, who will play in 2025 after he said he needed to take time to mull his future following the season. The Chargers believe he embodies the spirit of the team's toughness, but many teams will be lurking for potential pass rush help, and Fowler names including Atlanta and Carolina. He doesn't mention the Ravens. Now, Khalil Mack in his prime for sure is the game wrecker that everybody's talking about this offseason. The Ravens need a game wrecker. Ravens need a game wrecker. Obviously, the Ravens finished number 2 in the league in sacks, which is really commendable. Not having that dominant, Khalil Mack from back in the day, or Myles Garrett or TJ Watt or any of these guys. So you could potentially get him at a pretty good deal. Maybe not at the KVN kind of spectrum where he's definitely being, his double-digit sacks were definitely a bargain for the Ravens this year. Now, Khalil Mack, if you look at his production this last year, dropped quite a bit from 2023 to 2024. So he had 17 sacks with the Chargers last year, and it dropped to 6. So you just have to wonder, is this kind of like a 1 year that went, not great? I mean, he played all 16 games. The last time he had that low number of sacks was in 2021 when he only played 7 games. But outside of that year, he's been pretty available even as an older player. But even though the sacks are down, check out his PFF grade. He still has a 90.4 overall grade, which is 5th among 211 edge rushers. Pass rush grade, 79.9, which is 16th. And then a run defense grade, 88.0. So listen, if you could add him to KVN, Odafe Owe, Matabike in the middle, yeah, I think that this could be a pretty good signing again if he indeed hits the market. Okay, Bobby, what did KVN have to say as I'm sitting here talking about Khalil Mack maybe teaming up with him?
I just had an awesome conversation with him. Met his beautiful wife. They're walking Radio Row together. Chris Long obviously takes priority. That's where he's headed right now. He's going to be working with Kyle Hamilton on that bounty thing coming up later today, the bounty wings partnership. I just got his number, which is not something that I had before. Okay. And he wants to make it work. He just can't right now. So it was great catching up with him, though. He was super friendly. He was really busy last year when we chatted with him.
Yeah.
But he was really
That's
present.
when I talked to him about potentially re-signing with the Ravens, and he didn't like the way I phrased what he told me on social media. Remember that?
Well, you know what I do, and what's funny is I said, hey, I'm live right here with my BYU partner. I don't know if it registered for him or not, but he's getting smothered by everybody. But hopefully that's something to come in the coming hours here.
Well, if you are able to get him, then you're having luck with the BYU guys, because Dennis Pitta is BYU, KVN's BYU, Todd Heap is not BYU, but he's of the faith, right? So those guys you're having some luck with, so that's pretty good.
Let me just say this too, and I really believe in this. There are times when you're here where you're asking yourself, especially when you're competing with these national outlets, row upon row upon row upon row of national outlets who are getting these big guests. And you're kind of asking yourself, and you feel like such a small fish, what is the short-term gain that I've gotten this week? What am I doing for the show? What am I doing for me? What am I and it can get discouraging. Last year, I distinctly remember that relationships that we and I made here on Radio Row, some paid dividends right away, others were way down the line.
Right.
Kurt Warner being one of them. We do not get Kurt Warner on months down the line on opening week before Ravens Chiefs, if not for conversations that we had with his publicist here.
Right.
Kyle may be swamped for the rest of the way today and tomorrow, which I think he will be, and we may not get him, but we might get him later on in the offseason.
Right.
We may get him draft weekend. We may get him for free agency. And so just know, like, that's something I'm just talking out loud right now, like stuff that just goes into what we're building and everything. But I really believe that, and just that simple conversation right there could go a long way for us in the coming months, if not today. So.
Yeah, we saw that handshake. We couldn't see your heads, but I was like, oh, that would look like a pretty friendly handshake. It looks like it's going well.
And while we're on the topic of handshakes, because I absolutely ripped Baldy's, right? And I felt great about it with Baldy. The DAP could have been heard from Utah. The DAP was just so clean. Everything about it was clean and smooth. He's got soft hands. I mean, it was just bang. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Oh man, I like the vibe that you have today. I think the suit's doing something for you, man. You've got like a nice, fun, happy vibe today. I say suits every day.
Well,
Suits
I will
every
tell you
day.
this. I
Yeah,
sorry.
put a coughing fit.
I would. Oh,
Mute yourself.
this is gonna be so funny that I have to say this after what I just did, but my response to you was that I'm really feeling better, and yet I'm hacking up a lung, but I feel better. My congestion is down.
Yeah.
The cough did not keep me up as much as it has last night compared to previous nights. You guys are all probably calling my bluff right now because I could barely even talk, but I do feel better, and that has not been obviously something I've been able to say for weeks. So there's that.
There's that. And you sound a lot better. You're only coughing when we make you laugh. That's when the coughs come. So we can live with that.
Goodness.
All right. Now, okay, just quick hits. Should we finish up and then we'll let you go do your thing, trying to network and all that kind of stuff. I just wanted to make a point because my guy Skeptic Goat was asking me about different trade possibilities when we're trying to figure out if Myles Garrett is a legit possibility. And I had said that, if you wanted to get a long-term deal with Myles Garrett, you'd have to find a way to move some money. But unfortunately, Bobby, just a reminder that when you trade a player, it's the same cap effects as if you cut them. So if the Ravens traded, say, Roquan Smith, and people are like, hey, send Roquan over and get Myles Garrett, or send Matabike over. Those are some of the questions I've gotten. But the dead money is the same. So if you traded Roquan Smith, you're not getting rid of his $23 million cap hit. In fact, you're adding a $41 million dead cap. Okay. So like this whole thing because people are asking me all the time, why not send one of these big contracts over and then you get Myles back? And it's because you get all that dead money immediately if you trade them, because the team that trades for him only picks up his base salary. So that guaranteed money that he signed, that $60 million guaranteed money, all of that, they separate that $60 million out on the cap over 5 years. And most of it is backloaded. And so that's why it's so much dead money, because he's already been paid that $60 million. You just have to find a place to put it on the cap. So if you trade him, all that dead money's coming. Same thing with Matabike. He just re-signed last offseason. If you were to trade him, it's $46.4 million in dead money this year. So I get asked that question a lot. Why not trade those two guys? You just simply cannot with all that dead money.
What else we got for quick hits?
Yeah, so more quick hits here. So while you were out, Bobby, you may have missed this a little bit, but Jalen Milroe, Alabama quarterback, he had kind of mentioned at the Senior Bowl how much he liked Lamar Jackson. And he was on a show recently where he just re-emphasized that and is basically saying, I've got to connect with him. Lamar seems like his quarterback hero. Listen to this.
Team you love, they make
so it's crazy. They have their franchise quarterback, so I'm not going there. But I grew up a Ravens fan. So I was born in California. I moved to Maryland just for a year, real briefly. And then when I moved to Texas, my first youth team I played on was with the Katy Youth Ravens. And so since then, I watched the Ravens growing up, and then I also lived in Maryland for a brief time. So I was a Raven fan growing up. So, I still cheer for him right now.
So have you and Lamar connected?
I have not. I'd love to connect with him, though.
This is what I was getting at yesterday. Like, this dude's viewed as a veteran by the up and coming quarterbacks, like somebody that he grew up watching.
Yeah, it's got to be surreal for Lamar. I mean, that he already sees him, that he's already like this veteran that's been around forever. Because when you're going in your 8th season, think about that. Guys were in high school when you started. And so anyway, yeah, he says they have their franchise QB. He says he's always been a big Ravens fan. They have their franchise QB. So I'm not going there, but I grew up a Ravens fan. I still cheer for them right now. Wishes he could connect. So hopefully Lamar sees that and is able to connect with them at some point.
How funny is this too? Ingraven texted me this morning. You're just reminding me. that this dude on the left that's interviewing Jalen Milroe, Ing said he had to do a double take. He thought it was my doppelganger. He thought it was me at first. I'm like, no, that's not me, but I want that bomber jacket he's rocking right now. I'll tell you that.
It's a nice bomber jacket, and he's got that clean cut on the sides.
what's funny is his set is literally right over my left shoulder right now. So
Oh, that's funny.
yeah.
So who is it?
I don't even know who it is.
Oh.
Funny, because I usually know all the hosts. You know me. I try to keep up with all the broadcasting hosts, but I don't know who that is. It looks like a digital show to me. Can you tell? No. So
No.
Anyway, so more quick hits. PFF put out its top free agent offensive lineman, and I guess just a couple different things on this. Obviously, Ronnie is one, pending free agent first and foremost that the Ravens have to make a decision on. But then the second side of things is PFF considers him a top free agent offensive lineman. So like this whole resurrection of his career is just something that clearly happened this season. And for Ronnie, he's viewed as such around the league.
Absolutely. I mean, it's gonna be hard to retain him. I still don't know how. I still am very, very, very curious how the Ravens are going to open up money. They only have $6 million, and as I've said, outside of Arthur Millette and Broderick Washington, Brian McFarland just didn't have any cut candidates. There's going to be a couple extensions: Marlon Humphrey, Derrick Henry, but that's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough to get through the offseason and the postseason. So something's going to have to give, like a Mark Andrews trade or like a Lamar Jackson contract, something happening with that. Something. They have to be able to find money somewhere. Meanwhile, Bobby, Fox NFL put out how many Super Bowls have been won by each franchise. The Ravens are kind of, I'd say, upper middle, right? With 2. These guys that have 3 or more, all of them have so much more history than the Ravens. What's crazy is the Ravens are easily above average. And I accidentally put a white box over the Ravens on this list. I meant to make it transparent, that box. The Ravens are the second youngest team in the NFL. The Houston Texans being younger, Houston Texans have 0. Carolina Panthers, 0. They came into being right before the Ravens the year before. Jacksonville Jaguars, 0. I mean, those are all the guys that came. Those are all the teams that came in with the Ravens. Then you finally get to the Buccaneers. They started in 1976. And thanks to Tom Brady, they went from 0 to 2 in the last couple of years. So to have 2 when you became a franchise in 1996, and you're right up there, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. So then all these other teams, Bobby, they've had all these teams on the top list, on the top line, most of them have had dynasties. Cowboys, Steelers, Patriots, San Francisco, KC, Green Bay. So it's just nice to get perspective every once in a while, even though the Ravens could have 1 or 2 more in the last 2 years, but I digress.
Is Kansas City going to find its way up to that number 5 spot with Dallas and San Francisco? We'll see coming up on Sunday, but our friend Cole Jackson may not even be watching to see if that's going to happen based on this tweet that you pulled in.
Yeah, I actually wanted to get you and the chat to kind of respond to this. So Cole, this tweet went viral. He's like almost 9,000 likes the last time I looked. Cole wrote, "This is the least interested I've ever been in the Super Bowl. Weird feeling." I wanted to ask you, obviously, I don't have as much interest if the Ravens aren't in it, but take out non-Ravens Super Bowl years. Are you with Cole? Like, is it the least interested you've ever been?
Well, I can try to relate to him and throw on a fandom hat for a second here and see that perspective.
Uh-huh.
But I think you guys can also put on your professional hat or your broadcaster hat and realize that the adrenaline of being in the host city with the entire sports media world and everybody from those 2 fan bases, it's an infectious spirit here. So I can't really. I have a hard time relating to the tweet because I've been here the last several days and the buildup is palpable. But I can also see where he's coming from as a diehard.
Oh, I definitely see where he's coming from. I just thought it was interesting because, and I'm not there, so I'm not feeling all of that, buzz and the energy and all that around there. But to me, I don't see this as like any less interesting than any other like non-Raven Super Bowls. And so, and maybe it is just because of the pain, of the last 2 years of being knocked out early. I'm actually very interested in it. I'm like curious to see if the Eagles can knock off the Chiefs. Chiefs going for a three-peat, which has never been done before. I'm interested to see what Saquon Barkley can do. I'm interested to see if like the Eagles defensive line can keep hitting Mahomes, and if that's like the secret to beating him. I see it as like, I can see the Eagles winning by like 2 scores, but at the same time, if the Chiefs win, it'll be by like 3 points, right? I think that's the only way that the Eagles could beat them is if they had that big lead, because if it comes down to being a close game, I just trust Mahomes more than Jalen Hurts. So anyway, all these storylines has me actually, for a non-Raven Super Bowl, I'm actually kind of excited about it.
Oh yeah. No, make that 2 of us.
Yeah.
Plus it's a rematch of what we just saw. This is the second time in 3 years. So
yeah,
there's that element of it as well. A couple super chats have come in throughout the live stream today. Asmodeus, aka Richard, says, I think from his take, referring to Eric DeCosta, that he's going after Cooper Kupp. That's Richard has a feel for Eric's comments. And another one.
Can I actually follow up? Because I don't know that I've got your true opinion on Cooper Kupp.
I think he'd be the.
Are you wanting the Ravens to go after Cooper Kupp?
I think he'd be basically just the quintessential Ravens pickup, even though it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense financially. So I think he'd make them better. I think he'd bring a certain level of savvy.
That's why he wouldn't be a quintessential Ravens pickup.
About where he's at in his career.
Yes, that part
in terms of where he's at in his career. Yes.
Like injury, older. Yes. But here's another key difference though, and this is why I don't think the Ravens are even going to sniff around that trade, is in the past they got those like aging wide receivers to come in and become wide receiver 1. And they didn't even pay them very much.
Yeah,
so you're asking about a trade. And I know that the Rams said they would eat some of his cap, the base salary, so the cap is more friendly. But even if they did that, like it's pretty big money for what the Ravens need, which is wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
But you are right that they usually go after aging wide receivers, but again, as wide receiver 1.
Financially, obviously, has big implications, and then hasn't played a full season since 2021.
Yeah.
Which was a historic one for him. Triple Crown, Super Bowl MVP, unbelievable Super Bowl run with the Rams. So obviously those are 2 significant factors in the topic. And then Richard just making sure he's on record for sharing with us all, even though I don't believe him, and I'm going to call his bluff right now, is he's boycotting the Super Bowl this year. Richard.
Let us know. Let us know, Asmodeus.
Come on. Does anybody believe this guy? I don't. All right. Well, great Thursday.
Yep.
Hopefully much more to come this afternoon. There's a buzz out here for sure. And the hope is obviously to track down as many possible guests as I can.
I have a question for you. With the Cam Newton Super Bowl party tonight, will you be, and a date, I'm assuming you would be unavailable for a live show, emergency show, if Lamar Jackson wins MV3?
Should I call in from Cam's party via mobile?
You for sure should. You for sure should.
Hey, I know you're planning on doing it. Maybe I'll call in via mobile.
Okay.
Last time I did that was from the U.S. State Department's men's bathroom. Right?
Yeah.
Getting my passport situated during the bye week.
I was still so scared that we were going to get caught and somehow I was going to get in trouble.
Unreal.
That was unreal. But you made it. That's what's crazy is you made it within like a day. You made it happen.
Feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
So, but maybe we can do that depending on what's going on. I I also don't want to get in trouble there if they have like phone restrictions, but we'll see.
What? Nah.
And kind of excited about my +1. Just going to throw that out there.
Oh, okay. Do you want to talk about it now that we're at the end of the show? There's no more football, so those that want to leave, they can leave. I mean, you're bringing it up. Is there something you kind of want to talk about it?
We went out last night. We met on Hinge.
Okay.
Matched on Hinge. She's recent resident of New Orleans. Just moved here from the Carolina area.
Okay.
Went to NC State. A little bit younger than me, 25. I'm 30. Great energy. Youngest of 4. I'm the oldest of 4. Went out to dinner last night. Ended up meeting up with her friend afterwards. Then I brought Jake to meet me. It ended up becoming kind of a double date type thing. And a place called the Bower is where we ate dinner. Got a steak. We did like a tapas type thing. We split everything.
Okay.
And I just kind of felt the connection. But as everyone knows, we've been down this road before. Just staying kind of even keel. Let's see what happens. She wants to go to the party tonight. I have a verbal understanding from our contact that I do have a +1. She has a Carolina background, so I'm sure there's some motivation to get to this because of her love for Cam.
Wait.
Hopefully there's no abusing this invitation.
Here's my question, because I think that's a legitimate question that you could have in your mind. That it's a Carolina girl. She loves Cam Newton. You're going to that party. But here's my question. When you went out last night, before you went out, did she know that you were going to go to this party?
No, I think we had mentioned it. Like we were trying to figure out what night worked best for us this week.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, I may have an event that I haven't that I have a guest +1 to, but we didn't get into the specifics of what that entailed. So
that's something. You guys were already planning on going out before she knew about the Cam Newton angle.
The other angle here is, as you guys have known, since I make this so public, past situations like a Madison, they've been anchored down in their respective cities. Not that she's not anchored down here, but she was adamant last night. I don't know if adamant's the right word, but she was like clear to tell me, made it a point to say that she's on a 9-month contract here that's up this summer. Works for the Hilton Hotel Group, travels a lot, and isn't married to staying here. So I thought that was an interesting part of the conversation. And then I was like, well, hey, because she asked me, she's like, what about you? I was like, well, I'm not beholden to Baltimore. It makes a lot of sense for me business-wise, but I'm not beholden to it. So,
okay. See. What does she plan on going back to? Did you say South Carolina?
She's from North
Carolina.
No, she doesn't want to live there.
She doesn't want to live there.
No.
So she's open to basically anywhere across the country?
Seemed like there was definitely a level of openness. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right.
But.
Well, we will be getting an update on that because.
Yeah.
We will.
You guys know how it goes. Like when a first date goes well, I never shy away from hiding my excitement.
Yeah.
I thought it went really well. I mean, kissed a couple times after. I walked her home, dropped her off.
You just.
Yeah, I'm telling everybody right now.
That in there.
Should I talk about yours?
Oh, is that Jake? You talking about Jake? Oh boy,
yeah.
Here we go. I told you it's only when you laugh you start to cough.
He looked over at me. He goes, "Are you live right now? Are you talking about this right now?" I was like, "Yeah." I don't think
does
he knows
not know who you are? Does he not know this is a normal thing?
He must not watch the channel religiously to know that I'm an oversharer. He's also grinding over here. He just had Craig Carton on his channel. Baldy's coming over a little bit later. Gary V. Vandercheck. That's a big get. Jake had Brandon Marshall on his show yesterday. We just based on his guest booking, I've been rubbing elbows with all these like NFL legends. So there's a lot of people coming over here. We're sharing a table for those of you that missed that earlier in the week. Jake Asman, our buddy and Jets content creator here, is killing it. But
everybody is picking up on the fact that you just slipped in quickly that you kissed her last night on your first date.
There was multiple of those. Yeah. I mean, we went to a bar afterwards, and her friend met us, and they're both new to New Orleans, so it was cool to, like, since they've only been here for a little while, they're still kind of enjoying it too, but they also have a good sense for what to do. And they took us to this rooftop bar, and it ended up becoming like a double date with Jake. So, you're welcome. You're freaking welcome. But yeah, then I walked her back to her place.
Okay.
And as we're getting ready to wrap up, I just kind of leaned in, and she met me halfway in the middle. I mean, I've said it before. I'll say it again. It was firework-esque.
All right.
Yeah.
And then you're following it up with a Cam Newton Super Bowl party. It seems like it could be another good night in your future, I feel like.
We'll see. If the Pelicans were in town, I really wanted to go to a game, but they're not, and it's All-Star break, so that's a bummer. But anyway, before I go way over the top.
I don't know if we've already.
I already have.
Well, I don't know that it's like over the top because it's just like you're just transparent. So as long as we're being respectful of the women you're going out with, you can share what you want to share. But the best name I've seen in chat for you for this weekend is Bobby Bourbon Street.
Bobby Bourbon. I haven't checked it out yet. I feel like I kind of get the sense that that's, especially now that we've reached Thursday night, and Thursday night's such an extension of the weekend in a town like this. I don't know. I just kind of feel like that's a little bit too touristy for me. But maybe I'll check it out before it's all said and done.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got more super chats coming in.
All right. See you, fellas. Let's get some here. Oh, Richard's he's getting back to the Cooper Kupp follow-up, and he said, I wouldn't lie about it. Kupp is wide receiver 1C. 1C. Meaning Zay is 1A and Rashad is 1B. Is that what's going on here?
Well, Liza. I will say if the Ravens were, not that I think they're going to go after him, but trying to bolster kind of your argument for him, is that if you're going to get an aging guy, it's better not to have to make him wide receiver 1, and then you can conserve him as wide receiver 3, and it doesn't have to take as many snaps, and then maybe he can prolong his career. So,
and Liza
says, I boycotted last year's Super Bowl and will this year too.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna throw a Super Bowl party.
Liza's boycotting, you're throwing parties. And Liza is backing up Richard, by the way.
Yeah.
Tinsay says with the Hall of Fame players we've had, we could have had 2 dynasty timelines if we're ruthless. Mentality to win by run, defense, and being cheap held us back.
There is, I never said this with Josina, but the more I think about it, I mean, again, I don't know how you are able to filter through people to see what they can do under pressure, but it's just so absolutely right. Like, who's going to rise up in the biggest moment and not flinch? And that's what she was getting at. She's like, which one of you mofos are going to catch this ball for me? And that is at the heart of it because the talent is there. Lamar Jackson, and that's what bothered me most. And you could probably see that I pushed back on Mike Florio when he was trying to pin it. I don't like it that they're trying to pin it on Lamar, and I don't like it when they try to pin it on Monken. Could the pass have been better? Maybe, but I think it was a perfectly fine pass. Could you have done a different play call? Maybe, but he was wide open, and Lamar had a clear, no pressure on him, and he threw a ball to him in his numbers. So this is like to the point in the offseason where you get too cute and you're trying to outthink the room. The problem was not the play call. The problem was not the throw. The problem was not catching the ball. That's just it. And so, rise up. And that's why I was bothered. Not because I needed the quotes, not because I'm trying to be petty, but that's why I was bothered that Mark Andrews didn't go to the media and own up to it. To me, that meant to me that the moment was too big for him. And I wanted him to stand up to that pressure and talk to the media. Not for the media, not for us, not for fans, but for him. That's another reason why I personally have lost a little bit more faith than Dennis Pitta did. And now I just went on a rant, but she talks about mentality, and I want a mentality that you can rise up in the biggest, toughest moments. And if you happen to fail, go and face the music.
Fair. And as you were ranting, Jaden Daniels came prancing down Radio Row. Just
speaking of living up to the moment,
right here. He is right in front of me right now, getting ready to do some interviews. So the unflappable and absolute shoo-in for Offensive Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels, is on the scene here on Radio Row. So I've got a lot of wrangling to do. You know how it goes. Hopefully we'll have a successful afternoon. All 2,800 concurrents plus of you joining us right now. We appreciate you for being here. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell. Andrew Whitworth, former Ram. Now he's on the Amazon pre and post-game show scene is off to my right. So just getting going here on day 3 from Radio Row. Dan Orlovsky's off to the side as well. So let's see what I can do. Can I do what I do? But Greg Olson from Fox.
Ooh, Greg would be really good.
Greg is fantastic. And Ed Reed is still in the distance as well. So kind of take your pick. But as we know, nothing's guaranteed. So let's see what I can do.
5 options. If you could get one, that's a score, right?
Well, I got a verbal yes from Kyle. So
yeah. Wait.
And somewhere on the scene here is number
Kyle
14
Hamilton
as well.
Which Kyle? You're talking about Van Noy?
KVN, and he told me that somewhere on the scene here is number 14 too. So I don't know where he is, but they're going to be working together today, and maybe there'll be an opportunity. So as always, we'll max out. Hopefully make something work. You're going to be live tonight. I believe you're on board for that.
As long as he wins MV3.
Okay.
I might be too angry if he doesn't get it.
Okay.
Nobody wants to see angry Sarah.
All right. Well, you sure about that?
Oh, they want to see celebrating Sarah. I don't want to see angry Sarah.
Well,
angry's not the right word. I'd be fired up though.
I was thinking of the right adjective to close out. My favorite adjective, Sarah. Probably.
Ooh, what is the favorite?
Probably.
And then what's the least favorite?
I'd say euphoric, Sarah. How about that? Euphoric, Sarah. It's only happened a couple times, but I'll say euphoric, Sarah. Typically, it's in like post-game format when we're just, cooking with viewership, cooking off a win, cooking off the adrenaline of doing what we do in post-game format. I'll go with that one.
All right. I'll take it.
We appreciate you guys. Like the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.
I like Healthy Bobby, by the way. Healthy Bobby is much more lively.
You and me both. You and me both. Thank you to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this episode. You can go check out and support our brand sponsor by visiting the show notes if you haven't already done so. It's a pinned comment right now. Fox Sports executive Jacob Ullman just walked by me. He and I have had conversations before. That is a dude, Sarah, that if I end up wanting to get into traditional media one day again and going back to what I was once chasing, that's somebody that could very well be a deciding factor on that. So I'm going to try and get in front of him as well. But
don't do that. Now I don't want you to go talk to him.
Hey, we're going to find a way to make both coexist. All right.
I'm not going back to corporate. So
no.
But
maybe just maybe my broadcasting career takes a shift at some point. But
no, that would be a celebration.
We appreciate you guys, and stay tuned for more that we have coming up, that I have coming up here specifically from Radio Row in New Orleans. And obviously Sarah is making it possible, doing so much for me on the back end and so much for us on the back end back in Columbus. So appreciate you, partner. Appreciate all of you guys. We'll catch up with you in under 23 hours from right now with a Friday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. We look forward to it. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Schrossen, signing off from Thursday here on Radio Row in New Orleans. We'll catch up with you soon. And as always, thanks for joining us here inside the vault.